Freud, but he did not receive any kind of, well, he received a reply, but it was not engaged with. What we find in each of these different contexts is that psychoanalysis is adopted and adapted. So one of the features that we see is that psychoanalysis is adopted and adapted by the more dominant hegemonizing tradition within these societies. So the heterogeneity of the GT that psychoanalysis enters is often lost to it. But today in the 21st century, that internal heterogeneity of the global south is also speaking up from within the heart of psychoanalysis itself. So what I'm suggesting is that there seem to be three significant processes at every location. One is the translation of psychoanalysis into location-specific contexts. The Ajase complex is one such example. The second is translation of the local self directly into Western psychoanalysis, which is your psychoanalyst trained in the classical mode, trying to find exactly the kinds of things that Freud found. But there's a third feature, which is internal clashes between hegemonic and counter-hegemonic traditions within these regions. So, for example, in the Arab world, we find that Freud is very confidently translated into Arabic, straight from German. And then Arabic scholars hold that they have actually captured the ideas of Freud better, the direct translation into Arabic. So they don't use the term, the idea of the ego, they translate psychoanalysis as ilmal nafs. Nafs is the term that they prefer to use, which has a very different kind of history and a more dense location than ego. They also draw on the Sufi Ibn Arabi, so there's an idea of consciousness and spirituality. So you see, psychoanalysis, mainstream psychoanalysis in the Arab world is already very different from the way it's practiced in Europe. But in addition, what we find, so this third feature I was talking about, that there are internal clashes between hegemonic and counter-hegemonic traditions, is that there's also the emergence of traditional forms of healing, through dua and in shrines and so on. And psychoanalysis allies with Quran, scholars of the Quran, to say that is superstition. The dua and the kind of things that are happening in Sufi shrines, the freeing people from possession, all of that is then defined by psychoanalysis in alliance with Quranic scholars as superstition. So this is modern, this is acceptable, even we can even draw on the Quran, but the other is. So what I'm trying to say, obviously I can only hint at many of these things, that there are actually these three processes that are going on. Now I'm going to just quickly, so they're going to be it's going to be a bit choppy. So I'm going to now just talk about the way Oedipus figures in this field. So let's begin with the famous statement by Freud that it is the fate of all of us perhaps to direct our first sexual impulse towards our mother and our first hatred and our first murderous wish against our father. So first let's look at the ways in which this simply does not work. How universal is this assumed parricidal desire? Because let's take India now, or what we call India, this landmass that has come to be called India. In this part of the world, the living myths involving gods who are still worshipped are very different. For instance, we know about Yayati's son Kuru and Shantanu's son Devavrat, both of whom attained to full masculine subjectivity through sacrificing their youth and sexual desire for their fathers, and they're rewarded for it very powerfully. They become very powerful men. Kuru took on the untimely old age that was cursed upon his father, and in turn ascended the throne, though he was the youngest son. It was his lineage, of course, that produced the dynasty of the Pandavas and Kauravas. Devavrat, of course, took an oath of lifelong celibacy so that his father's desire for the beautiful Satyavati could be fulfilled. And he not only gave up the right to the throne himself, but promised there would never be any progeny of his who would challenge that throne. And Bhishma